I've experienced a lot of breaking points as a professor and during my PhD. And a lot of people assume that the job of a professor, the job of doing research, is this very fluent journey where you are wandering and finding something, and it's a very romantic view of how things actually work. And instead, in my own life, in terms of what has happened to me, I've actually had a series of successive breaking points. And I want to talk about those, and I want you to think about what this actually means for you and how to deal with some of these issues that you are going to experience along the way as you grow and develop. I remember one of the clearest breaking points for me was when I was in my PhD. And I remember this moment. It was not an easy process in the sense of working with other people. It was very difficult. It's a very stressful thing. I don't think people understand how stressful it actually is, where you're working on ideas and it doesn't seem like it's actually working, and you're working with other people often. And often it's very challenging because people are different personalities. And I remember this moment where I was feeling very, very down on myself, and it was just seemed very bleak and very just things were not working out for me. I was at a very good institution, and it just didn't feel like anything was working. I was spinning my wheels, and it was this moment where I thought, I actually have to think about smiling. This is an intentional thing. It was a very dark moment of the journey where you really see that there's nothing ahead of you, where you start to realize the sort of challenges of this. People don't realize this, is that you give up often in the profession. You give up lucrative careers. I was an engineer. I had a lucrative career. I gave this up to do discovery and to do research. And I was about 3 years into it when I began to realize, like, there is not any end in sight. This is not going to change. And so I got really dark and very depressed because you're spending an awful lot of time by yourself. But then I realized I actually have to smile. I have to intentionally engage with the world and start smiling. It was this moment where I actually tried to smile. It was very forced, and I went through months of this sort of forced nature of it. It was really weird, but it helped. It made me feel better about myself. That was the first breaking point that I think was really important. Another breaking point was at the end of my PhD journey, I couldn't get a job. There was no opportunities that were available. I did everything right. I spent the extra year to do a good job of my research. I thought that mattered. I went to a good institution. I went to all of the best institutions in Canada, and I couldn't get a job at the end of it. It was 2009. There was no jobs. And I remember applying to all of these different positions, applied to 80 different schools. That was my first time that I tried it. And I remember getting nothing, not a response. And it was at that moment I remember standing in the kitchen, and it was with my wife, and explaining to her what was going on. She didn't quite understand it. She's not in the profession. She doesn't really understand it. But I remember sobbing and crying. That was a breaking moment where I came to the hard reality of what this actually is. And then a breaking moment for me happened actually throughout this process of doing the reciprocity project, where, and you might be able to sort of see it too, was it was just before I was going up for tenure, and I just got tenure, and there was this moment where I was having these heart palpitations. It's a highly stressful moment in your life, because here you are, you think that you have it all together, and you don't know what other people are thinking of you. And I kind of it wasn't a sure bet for me. Because the stuff I do takes a long time. I'm never going to be the quote unquote most productive. I could talk about that. You can watch many different videos how I talk about this, but I'm never going to be the most productive because that's not the nature of the work that I actually do. It just does not look that way, and doesn't from the outside world. It never looks like I'm actually doing anything. So it's never really was a sure shot. A lot of people had faith in me, but it was a sort of moment where I realized, and in a lot of people, I was thinking about, like, what are people are thinking about me? And, because the whole process, people don't realize this, is that other people judge you. That is the whole process. Where there's 5 other people or 10 other people or 20 other people, how many letters that you actually need at your institution? I need 5. They're looking at me and determining whether I'm actually good enough. And then, there's all of the other people. They sort of bet on whether you're good enough. And I had this breaking moment for me was I realized, and please don't take this the wrong way if anybody's watching this from my own institution, but fuck it. At the end of the day, it was like I couldn't change how other people thought of me because this is who I actually was. And that was a real clear moment of clarity where I just had to say, and I'm still deeply insecure about it, and I realize a lot of people might sort of have this, is where I have to come and realize, like, I'm just me. This is who I am. I do my thing, and I can't change any of that. And if it's not good enough to outside world, if it's not good enough to other people, then I got to be okay with that, with who I am. And that was a real moment. It was a process. It wasn't a single moment. It was many, many months. All of these were very many, many months of coming to sort of moments of clarity where there were breaking points in who I was. And I think we all go through these. As you go through the process, you're going to go through these. As you go through moments of your own life, maybe you're not a professor, maybe you're not, a PhD, you don't sort of go through this. But you have to realize, A, you're good enough. You don't have to prove to anybody. And, you also have to realize, like, you make your own joy in your life. You can sit there and look at the world and you can say that the world is not good. The world is sort of collapsing around you. That was a big thing. Or you can make this. You can make your world and you can turn it around. You can say, you know what? I don't have to play by the rules of what the rest of the world is doing. And I can live my own life and I can be happy with that. I don't need an awful lot and I can be happy with that. And I don't need to stick with those sort of conventional ways of doing things. I remember when I was that moment where I didn't have a job lined up, I had to think, I can get a job someplace else, and I'm okay with that. I can walk away, and I could be okay with that. I remember when it was sort of going through and realizing all these people were judging me and all that kind of stuff, and I'm still going to go through that. This is endless. I realized that I just walk my way, and I got to be happy with who I am, and if other people don't like what I'm doing, that is totally fine. That's on them. They can't see what I'm actually about, and that's fine, and they'll never be able to see what I'm about, but I know I'm a genuine, nice human being that's trying to work and do my thing and actually make the world a better place and putting in all of that effort. If they can't see it, well, that's fine. That's on them, that's not on me. And the more that I sort of reconcile this inside, where I just say, hey, I'm just a good person doing good things, and I don't need a lot. The more I sort of think about that, the better off I actually feel inside. And hopefully you feel the same way as you're paying attention to this, is that there's a lot of breaking moments that you're going to go through, breaking points. But in each one of those moments, there's an opportunity to grow and to become better and to to process the world, learn to process the world as it actually is and not what you expect it to be. That is a hard thing to learn. You got to look at the world and just say, this is what the world actually is. Nobody cares, but you have to make your world better off. And you have to actually work on yourself to see that. All right. Take care and have a wonderful day. Bye.